Good evening. My name is Jeremy Holstein, and welcome to the Post-Meridian Radio Players Summer of Mystery. The Post-Meridian Radio Players are an audio drama group out of Somerville, Massachusetts, who are trying to recapture the golden age of radio by performing audio dramas in front of a live audience. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to do that recently for obvious reasons. But we are hoping to be back live this Halloween for Plan 9 from Outer Space. But until then, we are performing our annual Summer Mysteries virtually, one a month, with our second show being an original adaptation of the Sherlock Holmes classic, The Adventure of the Bruce Partington Plans. Some quick notes on the show. Some of the actors will be playing multiple roles, so if a character is wearing a different hat, it's a different person. Should there be any network issues with any of our performers, I will be the emergency actor to jump in and cover until the issue is resolved, but let's hope that doesn't happen. Please consider donating at the link at www.pmrp.org. Every little bit helps us to continue bringing you new audio drama. And that's it. So, please, sit back in front of your screen and enjoy as Andrew Harrington and Chris Chiampa star as Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson in Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's The Adventure of the Bruce Partington Plans.
My name is Watson, Dr. Watson, and it was my privilege to share the adventures of Sherlock Holmes. In the third week of November, in the year 1895, a dense fog settled down upon London. From the Monday to the Thursday, I doubt it was ever possible to see the houses opposite our rooms in Baker Street. The first day, Holmes spent cross-indexing his books of references, while the second and third were occupied upon a subject he had recently made his hobby, the music of the Middle Ages. But on the fourth morning, when we saw the heavy brown swirls still drifting past our windows, my comrade could endure this drab existence no longer. He paced restlessly about our sitting room, chafing against inaction.
Nothing of interest in the paper, Watson?
Of interest? Well, there's the news of a revolution, of a possible war, of an impending change of government.
Commonplace and futile. You know for what I'm asking.
You mean matters criminal?
Of course.
No, I'm sorry. It's all war and politics. Little to do with crime.
Last! The London criminal's certainly become a dull fellow. Look at the shadowy fog out this window, Watson. Today, the thief or murderer could roam London as the tiger does the jungle, unseen until he pounces upon his victim.
There have been numerous petty thefts.
Ah! Petty thefts. This sombre stage is set for something more worthy than that. Come in, Mrs. Hudson.
A telegram for you, Mr. Holmes.
Thank you, Mrs. Hudson. You can go.
Of course, Mr. Holmes. If you need me, I'll be in the kitchen.
Well, this telegram really does signal the end of days. Brother Mycroft is coming round.
Why is that so strange?
Strange? It is as if you were to meet a tram car coming down a country lane. Mycroft has but a single cycle, endlessly repeated. His lodgings in Pall Mall, the Diogenes Club, Whitehall. What upheaval can possibly have derailed him?
Does he not explain?
Read it for yourself.
Must see you over Cadogan West, coming at once. Mycroft. Cadogan West? I've heard that name somewhere.
It recalls nothing to my mind. By the by, Watson, do you know what Mycroft is?
I have some vague recollection of what you told me, The Adventure of the Greek Interpreter. You told me that he had some small office under the British government.
I did not know you quite so well in those days. You are right, Watson, in thinking that he works for the British government. You would also be right if you said that he is the British government.
My dear Holmes.
Oh, his position is unique. The same powers which I have turned to the detection of crime, he uses for matters of state. The conclusions of every department are passed to him, and again his words have decided national policy. He thinks of nothing else, save when I call upon him and ask his advice for one of my little problems. But Jupiter is descending here today. What on earth can it mean? Who is Cadogan West, and what is he to Mycroft?
Ah! I remember now. Let me see. Yes, here. Yeah, from the Tuesday edition of the Times. Cadogan West was the young man found dead by a rail track. Apparently he had fallen out of the train.
This must be serious, Watson. A death which has caused my brother to alter his habits cannot be an ordinary one. And now, please, let us have the facts.
Well, let's see. The man's name was Arthur Cadogan West, clerk at Woolwich Arsenal.
Government employee. Behold the link with Brother Mycroft.
He was last seen Monday evening by his fiancée, Miss Violet Westbury, whom he abruptly left about 7:30 that evening for, seemingly no reason. The next thing heard of him was when his body was discovered.
When was that?
At 6 on Tuesday morning, lying upon the left hand of the track. His head was badly crushed.
An injury which might well have been caused by a fall from the train. What does his ticket show for his destination?
Well, he had no ticket.
No ticket? Dear me, Watson, that point is of curious interest. Anything else?
He had 2 tickets for the Woolwich Theatre in his pocket, dated that very evening. Also a small packet of technical papers.
There we have it at last, Watson. British government, Woolwich Arsenal, technical papers, Brother Mycroft, the chain is complete. But here, if I'm not mistaken, comes Mycroft to speak for himself.
Mr. Holmes? Mr. Holmes to see you.
A moment later, the tall and portly form of Mycroft Holmes was ushered into the room. His body was heavily built and massive, but above this unwieldy frame there was perched a head so masterful in its gaze that one forgot the body, and remembered only the dominant mind. At his heels came our old friend Inspector Lestrade, thin and austere. The gravity of both their faces foretold some weighty quest.
Mycroft? Lestrade? Welcome to Baker Street.
Mr. Holmes, it's good to see you again after that.
A most annoying business, Sherlock. I extremely dislike altering my habits, especially given the current political state of Siam, but it is a real crisis. I've never seen the Prime Minister so upset, and the Admiralty is buzzing like an overturned beehive. Have you read up the case?
No, we have just done so. What were the technical papers?
Fortunately, that has not yet come out. The papers which this wretched youth had in his pocket were the plans of the Bruce Partington submarine.
The Bruce Partington...
A new design, Doctor, whose importance can hardly be exaggerated. You may take it from me that naval warfare becomes impossible within the radius of a Bruce Partington submarine. Every effort has been made to keep it secret. They are kept in an elaborate safe in a confidential office with burglar-proof doors and windows, with orders that under no circumstances were the plans ever to be taken from the office. And yet, here we find them in the pocket of a dead junior clerk in the heart of London. It's an absolute embarrassment.
But the newspapers said you had recovered them.
No, Doctor, we have not. 10 papers were taken from Woolwich, but there were only 7 in the pocket of Cadogan West. The 3 most essential are gone, stolen, vanished. You must drop everything, Sherlock. Never mind your usual petty puzzles of the police court. It's a vital international problem that you have to solve this time.
Why not solve it yourself, Mycroft? You can see as far as I.
Possibly, Sherlock. Give me details, and from my armchair I will return you an excellent solution. But to run here and there, to question railway employees, to lie on the ground with a lens to my eye, no, you are the man who can clear this matter up, brother. if you fancy to see your name in the next honours list.
I play the game for the game's sake, brother. But your problem certainly presents some points of interest. Yes, I shall look into it.
Very good. I have jotted down the essential facts upon this sheet of paper, together with a few names and addresses which you will find of service.
Who is Sir James Walter?
The official guardian of the papers, a government expert who has grown grey in the service. He is one of two who have a key to the safe.
As he has access to the safe, could Sir Walter be a suspect?
Absolutely not. His patriotism is beyond suspicion. Besides, the papers were undoubtedly in the office during working hours on Monday, and Sir James left for London about 3 o'clock. His brother, Colonel Valentine Walter, has testified to his departure from Woolwich, and Admiral Sinclair to his arrival in London. Sir James is no longer a direct factor in the problem.
You said there were 2 keys.
The second key is in the hands of the senior clerk and draftsman, Mr. Sidney Johnson, a man of 40 with an excellent record of public service. According to his wife's account, he was at home the whole of Monday evening, and he swears his key has never left his watch chain.
Very good. Now tell us about Cadogan West.
He has been in the service 10 years, and has the reputation of being hot-headed, but otherwise a straight, honest man.
Who had contact with the plans?
Both West and Johnson had daily personal contact with the plans. No one else handled them.
Well, then it seems perfectly clear who took them away. They were, after all, found upon the person of Cadogan West. That seems final, does it not?
It does, Sherlock, and yet it leaves so much unexplained. In the first place, why did he take them?
I presume they were of value.
Of course. He could have got several thousands for them easily.
Well, then we must take that as our working hypothesis. Young West took the papers to sell them. Now, this could only be done by having a false key.
Several false keys. He had to open both the building and the room before reaching the safe.
Several false keys, then. He took the papers to London to sell, intending to have them back in the safe next morning before they were missed. We will suppose that he was travelling back to Woolwich when he was killed and thrown out of the train compartment.
And yet consider, Sherlock, how much you leave untouched. We will suppose, for argument's sake, that young Cadogan West had determined to convey the papers to London. He would naturally have made an appointment with a foreign agent and kept his evening clear. Instead, took 2 tickets for the theatre, escorted his fiancée halfway there, and then suddenly disappeared.
Ha! An obvious blind!
Are you still here, Lestrade? You've been so quiet.
It seems all perfectly clear to me. I have no doubt as to what occurred.
Then please, Inspector, enlighten us.
West took the papers to sell them. He met the agent on the train, but could not agree as to a price. The agent then murdered him, took the more essential papers, and threw his body from the carriage. That would account for everything, would it not?
Why had he no ticket?
Well, the ticket would have shown which station was nearest to the agent's home. Therefore, he took it from the murdered man's pocket.
Good, Lestrade. Very good. Your theory holds together. But if this is true, then the case is already at an end. The traitor is dead, and the plans of the Bruce Partington submarine are presumably already on the continent. What is there for us to do?
To act, Sherlock, to act. All my instinct are against this explanation. Use your powers. Go to the scene of the crime. See the people concerned. In all your career, you have never had so great a chance of serving your country.
Well, it would seem we have no choice, eh, Watson? Lestrade, could you favour us with your company for an hour or two?
Of course, Mr. Holmes, if it would help.
We'll begin our investigation by a visit to Aldgate Station. Goodbye, Mycroft. I shall have a report before evening, but I warn you in advance to expect very little.
An hour later, we stood upon the rails at Aldgate Station. A courteous, red-faced old gentleman was there to represent the railway company.
This here is where the young man's body lay. As these rails are all encompassed by the tunnel, it only could have fallen from the tram about midnight on Monday.
Have the carriages of this train been examined for any sign of violence?
I can answer that. There are no such signs, and no ticket has been found.
No door found open.
None.
We have, however, had some fresh evidence this morning.
Oh, indeed. I must have forgotten to mention it.
A passenger on that train declares that he had a heavy thud around 11:40 on Monday night, as of a body striking the line just before the train reached the station.
I should note that he made no report of it at the time.
There was a dense fog. He could see nothing. What was there to report before a body turned up?
He still should have... Why, are you all right, Mr. Holmes?
Holmes?
The switch, Watson, the switch.
The rail switch. What of it?
And a curve, too. A switch and a curve. By Jove, if it were only so.
What is it, Holmes? Have you discovered something?
An indication, Watson, no more. But the case grows in interest. I do not see any evidence of blood on the rail.
Yes, I noticed that too. There was hardly any.
Yet I understand that the body had a considerable wound.
Would it be possible for me to inspect the train where the passenger heard the thud?
I fear not, Mr. Holmes. The train has been broken up and the carriage is redistributed.
I can assure you, Mr. Holmes, that every carriage has been carefully examined. I saw to it myself.
It was one of my friend's most obvious weaknesses that he was impatient, with less alert intelligences than his own.
And very likely that you caught everything, Lestrade.
Why, thank you, Mr. Holmes.
Watson, we have done all we can here. We need not trouble you any further, Lestrade.
Oh, very well then. You carry on. I'll head back to the yard.
Please do. Come, Watson.
You'll let us know if you find anything, won't you? Mr. Holmes? Mr. Holmes?
At London Bridge, Holmes dashed off a telegram to his brother. See some light in the darkness. Send to Baker Street a complete list of the addresses for all international agents known to be in London. Sherlock. With the telegram dispatched, we boarded the Woolwich train en route to our next destination.
We certainly owe Brother Mycroft a debt, Watson. This promises to be a remarkable case. I'm dull indeed not to have understood its possibilities at Baker Street.
Even now they are dark to me.
The end is dark to me as well. But I have hold of one idea which may lead us far.
Which is?
Cadogan West met his death elsewhere, and his body was placed on the roof of the rail carriage.
The roof?
Remarkable, is it not? But consider, is it a coincidence that his body was found at a corner where the train pitches and sways on the rail? Is that not the place where an object might fall off the roof? And there's more. Consider the question of the blood.
Yes, there would be no blood on the line if he were killed elsewhere. Now, those facts are suggestive. And the missing ticket, too.
Exactly. Everything fits together.
But even if it were true, we are still as far from unravelling the mystery of his death.
Perhaps. But we have arrived at Woolwich Station. Based upon Mycroft's list, we have quite a round of afternoon calls to make. The Clark Johnson, Cadogan West's fiancée. But I think that the plan's guardian, Sir James Walter, claims our first attention.
The house of Sir James Walter was a fine villa with green lawns stretching down to the Thames. As we reached it, the fog was lifting, and a thin, watery sunshine broke through the clouds. A tall man of 50 answered our ring. His wild eyes, stained cheeks, and unkempt hair all spoke of some tragedy.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Sherlock Holmes, and this is Dr. Watson. We're here to see Sir James Walter.
I'm very sorry, sir. Sir James died this morning.
Good heavens!
I am his brother, Colonel Valentine. I assume you are here representing the government?
We are.
I recognize how vital my brother's work was to Her Majesty, so I will grant you a few minutes. I have many things to attend to.
We're sorry for your loss.
Thank you. It was this horrible scandal about the plans. My brother, Sir James, was a man of very sensitive honour, and the affair was a crushing blow.
We had hoped that he might have assisted us in clearing the matter up.
I assure you it was as much a mystery to him as it is to all of us. Naturally, he had no doubt of Cadogan West's guilt, but the rest was inconceivable.
You cannot throw any new light upon the affair?
I know nothing myself save what I have read or heard. Gentlemen, I have no desire to be discourteous, but you can understand that we are much disturbed at present, and I must ask you to hasten this interview to an end. Good day.
The death of Sir Walter is indeed an unexpected development.
One would assume it was guilt for a neglected duty. Losing the papers was a blow to his honour.
We must leave that question to the future. For now, we shall turn to the Cadogan Wests.
A small but well-kept house on the outskirts of town sheltered the bereaved fiancée of Cadogan West, a young lady who introduced herself as Miss Violet Westbury. Despite her grief, she agreed to speak with us.
Miss Westbury, can you explain your fiancé's actions?
I cannot, Mr. Holmes. Arthur was the most chivalrous, patriotic man upon this earth. The idea that he would sell a state secret is absurd, impossible, and preposterous.
But the facts, Miss Westbury, you must admit they are rather damning.
I admit I cannot explain them.
Was he in any want of money?
No. His needs were very simple and his salary ample. He had even saved several hundred as we were set to marry at the New Year.
No recent signs of mental excitement?
No. But...
Come, Miss Westbury. Be absolutely frank with us.
Yes. Lately I had a feeling that there was something on his mind. I pressed him about it, and he admitted that he was concerned with his official life. Once or twice it seemed he was on the verge of telling me, but...
Pray go on, Miss Westbury. Even if it works against him, go on. We cannot say where it may lead.
He spoke one evening of an important secret, one that foreign spies would pay a great deal for, but he never told me what it was.
Is there anything else?
Only that his office was rather slack about security, that it would be easy for a traitor to get the secret should they wish to do so.
I see. Now, Miss Westbury, pray, tell us of that last evening.
We were to go to the theatre. The fog was so thick that a cab was useless, so we walked, and our way took us close to his office. Suddenly he uttered an exclamation and darted away into the fog. I waited, but he never returned. Oh, gentlemen, if you could only save his honour. It meant so much to him, and so to me.
We will do what we can, Miss Westbury, although I cannot offer you much by way of hope. The facts are stacked against your fiancé. Come, Watson, our path lies elsewhere.
My condolences, madam. Holmes, that was very rude. The poor woman was grieving.
I do not wish to give her false promise. It was black enough against this young man before, but our inquiries have only made it blacker still. His coming marriage gives a motive, for he naturally needed money. The idea was in his head since he spoke to his fiancée about the lack of security. It is all very bad.
But surely, Holmes, his character counts for something.
Character? What kind of character does it speak of to leave the girl alone in a foggy street, darting away to commit a felony?
I admit there are some objections.
It remains a formidable case against him. Still, we must persist. Our next stop must be the office from which the papers were taken. Cabby!
The senior clerk, Mrs. Sidney Johnson, received us at the office with the respect my companion's card always commands. He was a thin, gruff, bespectacled man of middle age, and his hands twitched from nervous strain.
It is very bad, Mr. Holmes, very bad. I take it you have heard of the death of Sir James.
We have just come from his house.
It is all ruined. Sir James dead, Cadogan West dead, the papers stolen. And yet, when I closed our door on Monday evening, we were as efficient an office as any in the government. Good God, it is dreadful to think of, that West, of all men, should have done such a thing.
You are sure of his guilt, then?
I can see no other way out of it. And yet I would have trusted him as I trust myself.
Suppose that Cadogan West wished to make his way into the building after hours. He would need 3 keys, would he not, before he could reach the papers?
Yes, he would. The key of the outer door, the key of the office, and the key of the safe.
Only Sir James Walter and you had those keys?
No, Mr. Holmes. I have no keys for the doors, only of the safe.
Ah, that is instructive.
Sir James kept all 3 keys on the same ring, which was on his person at all times. That ring went with him to London.
And your own key never left your possession?
Never.
Then West, if he's the culprit, must have had a duplicate. And yet none was found upon his body.
Every inquiry in this case reveals something inexplicable. Now, there are 3 papers still missing.
Yes, the most important ones.
Do you mean to say that anyone holding the missing 3 papers could construct a Bruce Partington submarine?
Well, I did report that to the Admiralty, but today I have been over the drawings again and I am not so sure. The double valves with the automatic slots are drawn in one of the papers, but that one was returned. Until the foreigners invented that for themselves, they could not make the boat.
I see. Thank you for your time, Mr. Johnson. Come, Watson. Our train awaits. It is a small crop of evidence we have gathered in Woolwich, Watson. In all our adventures, we have never had a case more difficult to get at.
Well, yet surely we have made some progress. Let us suppose, for example, that Cadogan West had been approached by some foreign agent. It would have affected his thoughts, as indicated by his remarks to his fiancée.
Very good, Watson.
Now suppose that as he went to the theatre with Miss Westbury, he suddenly caught a glimpse of that same agent of the fog going in the direction of the office.
Mycroft did say he was an impetuous man, quick in his decisions.
West followed the agent, saw the abstraction of the documents, and pursued the thief.
So far, it holds together. And what happened next?
Next, why, I have absolutely no idea.
Yes, there our scent runs cold. There is a vast gap between your hypothesis and the laying of West's body on the roof of a metropolitan train with 7 papers in his pocket. But let us not give up hope. If Mycroft has sent us the requested list of names and addresses to Baker Street, we may yet see that gap close.
Surely enough, a note from Mycroft awaited us upon our return.
Good old Mycroft. Let us see what he has provided us. There are few who could handle so big an affair. The only men worth considering are Adolphe Mayer of Westminster, Louis La Rothière of Notting Hill, and Hugo Oberstein of Kensington. The latter was known to be in town on Monday and is now reported to have left. The Cabinet awaits your report with the utmost anxiety. Mycroft.
I'm afraid that all the Queen's horses and all the Queen's men cannot avail us in this matter.
Let us consult the map. There's Mayer here, La Rothière here, and Oberstein is... Well. Things are turning a little in our direction at last. Why, Watson, I do honestly believe that we're going to pull it off after all.
Holmes, I don't see what's so amusing.
Later, Watson, later. I'm going out for now.
Oh, then I shall come with you.
No, my friend. It is only a reconnaissance. I will do nothing serious without my trusted comrade and biographer at my elbow. Do stay here, and if time hangs heavy, pick up your pen and begin the narrative of how we saved the state.
I felt some elation, for I knew well that he would not depart alone unless there was cause. The case was drawing towards a conclusion. All the long November evening I waited for Holmes' return, filled with impatience. At last, shortly after 9 o'clock, a messenger arrived with a note.
"Am dining at Goldini's restaurant, Gloucester Road, Kensington. Please come at once and join me. Bring with you a jemmy, a dark lantern, a chisel, a revolver, and your wallet. S.H."
It was a nice set of equipment for a respectable citizen to carry through dim, fog-draped streets. I stowed them all discreetly away in my overcoat and drove straight to the address. There sat my friend near the door of a garish Italian restaurant.
Watson! Fancy meeting you here. Have you had something to eat? Then join me in a coffee and curacao. Do try one of the proprietor's cigars. They're less poisonous than one would expect.
Thank you. Oh, the cigar's actually quite good.
Did you bring the tools?
Of course. They're here in my overcoat.
Excellent. Then let me give you a short sketch of what I've done, along with what we are about to do. It must be evident that this young man's body was placed on the roof of the train.
Yes, although I am at a loss as to how it was accomplished.
There is only one possible way. You are aware that the underground runs clear of tunnels nearby, with the occasional window just above? Now suppose that a train halted under such a window. Would there be any difficulty in laying a body upon the roof?
It seems most improbable.
We must fall back upon the old axiom that when all other contingencies fail, whatever remains, however improbable.
Must be the truth, yes.
When I discovered that the leading international agent lived in a row of houses abutting the underground, I was so pleased that you seemed annoyed at my frivolity.
Ah, that was it?
Oh, yes. Mr. Hugo Oberstein of 13 Caulfield Gardens, whose back stair windows open onto the line at the very spot where the conductors frequently hold trains motionless.
Holmes, that's splendid. You've got it.
We advance, Watson, but the goal is still afar. We must suppose that Oberstein has gone to the continent to dispose of his booty, so it is unlikely there is anyone there at present.
And we are to break into this house, I suppose?
Of course. We cannot tell what correspondence we might find.
I don't like it.
My dear fellow, you shall merely keep watch in the street. I'll do the criminal part.
You're splitting hairs.
It's not a time to stick at trifles. Think of Mycroft's note, of the Admiralty, the Cabinet, of the exalted person who waits for news. We are bound to go.
Yes, you are right. We are bound to go.
Good man. I knew you would not shrink at the last.
How are we to get there?
Well, let us walk. With Oberstein out of town, there is no hurry. But do not drop the instruments, I beg. Your arrest as a suspicious character would be a most unfortunate complication.
Really, Holmes? I paid for our meal, and we soon set out. Caulfield Gardens was one of those lines of porticoed houses so prominent in the West End of London. The fog still hung about and screened us with its friendly shade. Holmes lit his lantern and flashed it upon the massive front door.
This door is a serious proposition. It is certainly bolted as well as locked.
And then how are we to gain access?
There is a side door down that stair, with an excellent archway in case a too zealous policeman should intrude. Yes, I can pick this lock, given time. Keep watch, Watson.
Right. Holmes! Someone's coming.
Almost have it.
It's a policeman. He'll be on us at any moment.
Almost. Ah, that's done it. Inside, Watson, quickly.
Did he see us?
Quiet. No, he's headed on. I like holds, Watson. Now, upstairs. Here we are, Watson. This must be the window that looks out over the tracks.
I'll open it.
Run the light across the windowsill.
It's covered with soot, but I can see the places where it's been blurred.
That must be where they rested the body. Hello, Watson. What is this along the woodwork of the window?
Oh. Blood.
There can be no doubt. If a train should pass...
Our luck holds. Here comes the train.
The midnight to Paddington. It's slowing to accommodate the turn. Now watch. There, you see?
The train's pulled up immediately beneath the window.
About 4 feet from the window ledge. Then the demonstration is complete. Close the window.
Right.
There. What do you think of it, Watson?
A masterpiece. You have never risen to a greater height.
I cannot agree. From the moment I conceived the idea of the body being upon the roof, the rest was inevitable. Now there are still difficulties before us, but perhaps we may yet find something downstairs which may help us.
We descended the stair and entered the first floor. A dining room and bedroom contained nothing of interest, but the remaining room appeared more promising, as it was littered with books and papers. My companion and I settled down to a systematic examination. At the end of an hour, we were no further than when we had started.
The cunning dog has covered his tracks, Watson, leaving nothing to incriminate him. His dangerous correspondence has been either destroyed or removed.
We cannot give up hope. Perhaps this tin case box.
Our last chance. Locked.
Let me jimmy it open.
Yes. Now this is something. A series of messages in the advertisements of a paper.
Daily Telegraph agony column. Terms agreed to. Perot. Next comes too complex for description. Must have full report. Perot. Could that refer to the plans?
Let us follow the trail. Next comes matter presses. Must withdraw offer unless contract completed. Perot.
Finally. Monday night after 9. 2 taps. Payment when goods delivered. Perot.
A fairly complete record, Watson. If only we could get at the man on the other end. Well, perhaps it won't be so difficult after all.
You have a plan?
The thread of one, at least. There is nothing more to be done here, Watson. Perhaps we might drive round to the offices of the Daily Telegraph on our way back to Baker Street.
Mycroft and Lestrade came round after breakfast the next day, and Sherlock Holmes recounted to them our actions of the day before. Lestrade shook his head over our confessed burglary.
No wonder you get results that are beyond us, Mr. Holmes. We can't do these kinds of things in the force. But one of these days you'll go too far and you'll find yourself in trouble.
For England, Watson? Martyrs on the altar of our country. What do you think of it, Mycroft?
Excellent, Sherlock. Admirable. But what use will you make of it?
Here is today's Daily Telegraph. Have you seen Perot's advertisement?
What, another one?
Yes, here it is.
Tonight, same hour, same place, 2 taps. Most vitally important, your own safety at stake. Perot.
By George, if he answers that, we've got him.
That was my idea when I put it in. Now, gentlemen, I think if you could come with us about, say, 8 o'clock to Caulfield Gardens, we might get a little closer to a solution.
One of the most remarkable skills of Sherlock Holmes was his power of detachment, switching off all his criminal thoughts whenever he could no longer work to advantage. During the whole of that memorable day, he lost himself in writing a monograph upon the polyphonic motets of Lassus. For myself, the day seemed interminable as the national importance worked deep upon my nerves. It was a relief to me when, at last, after a light dinner, we set out upon our expedition. Lestrade and Mycroft met us outside of Gloucester Road Station.
Ah, Mycroft. Lestrade. Well met.
Mr. Holmes.
Brother, I cannot remember the last time I've taken so many trains and cabs. I much prefer my chair at the club.
If fortune smiles upon us, I fancy you'll be back in the Diogenes by dawn. Now follow me. This is Oberstein's residence. Now all we have to do is climb the railing, open the window, and...
You can't be serious.
Why ever not?
The last time I climbed anything, I was in my schoolboy uniform.
Not even for Queen and country?
Even my love for Her Majesty has its limits.
Lestrade?
With all due respect, that's the kind of work for a cadet, not an inspector.
Fine. I suppose it's up to me.
Good man. Up you go.
Hop!
He's done it!
Good old Watson. Now he can open the door, and
Quickly, everyone, inside.
after you, Mycroft.
You, brother.
By 11 o'clock, we were all seated in the study, waiting patiently for our man. Lestrade and Mycroft fidgeted in their seats, while Holmes sat silently, his eyelids half shut, but every sense on the alert. Suddenly, he signalled us to readiness.
He's coming. Ah, you are here. Come, Sisfay.
Thank you, Herr Oberstein. I can provide... Wait. You're not...
Grab him, Watson.
Nicely struck, Doctor. The chap's out cold.
I don't believe it. I never would have guessed.
Indeed. You can write me down as an ass this time, Watson. This was not the bird I was looking for.
Who is he?
Colonel Valentine, the younger brother of the late Sir James Walter.
Yes. Yes, the mists begin to clear.
Oh, he's coming too.
Put him on the chair. I think that you had best leave his examination to me.
It's most irregular, but I suppose...
Lestrade.
Very well. God forbid I do any actual police work!
What is this? I came here to visit Herr Oberstein.
Everything is known, Colonel Valentine.
I don't know what you mean.
We have your whole correspondence with Oberstein. What's more, we know the circumstances surrounding the death of young Cadogan West.
No.
We know that you were pressed for money, that you took an impression of your brother's keys, and that you entered into a negotiation with Oberstein through the agony column of the Daily Telegraph. We know that you went to the office through the fog on Monday night, and we know that you were seen and followed by young Cadogan West.
Oh, God!
He saw your theft, and leaving his fiancée, he followed you through the fog until you reached this very house. There he attempted to intervene, and there it was, Colonel Walter, that to treason you added the more terrible crime of murder.
I did not. Before God, I swear I did not.
Tell us then, Colonel. How did Cadogan West meet his end?
I confess I did the rest. It was just as you say. A stock exchange debt had to be paid, and Oberstein offered me 5,000, enough to save myself from ruin. But as to murder, I am innocent.
What happened? Tell us, and we might spare you the gallows.
West. He followed me as you describe, but I never knew it until I arrived here. Oberstein had come to the door when the young man rushed up and demanded to know what we were doing with the papers.
So far it is clear. Pray continue.
As West forced his way into the house, Oberstein struck him on the head with a cosh. The blow was a fatal one. West lay in the hall, and we were at our wits' end as to what to do.
Whose inspiration was the train?
Oberstein's. He remembered the trains halted under his back window and saw an opportunity. But first, he examined the papers which I had brought. 3 of them he deemed essential. The others he stuffed into the pocket of the young man.
To put suspicion onto West. Of course.
We waited until at the window until a train stopped, and we had no difficulty in lowering West's body onto the carriage. That was the end of the matter, or so I thought.
And your brother? What about Sir James?
He said nothing to me about the affair, but he had caught me once with his keys. I read in his eyes his suspicion, and that suspicion led to his despair. I never dreamed my actions would lead to my brother's death.
Can you make reparation? It would ease your conscience.
And possibly your punishment.
What reparation can I make?
Where is Oberstein now?
I do not know. He said that the letters to the Hotel du Louvre in Paris would eventually reach him.
then reparation is still within your power.
I will do anything I can. I owe Oberstein nothing. He has been my ruin and my downfall.
Here are pen and paper. Sit at this desk and write to my dictation. Dear Sir, with regard to our transaction, you will have observed by now that one essential detail is missing. I have a tracing which will make it complete. However, I must regretfully ask you for a further £500 in gold or notes. I shall expect you in the smoking room of the Charing Cross Hotel at noon on Saturday.
Noon on Saturday.
That will do.
You're taking an enormous risk, Mr. Holmes.
Perhaps, Lestrade. But I shall be very much surprised if it does not fetch our man.
And it did. It is a matter of history, that secret history of a nation which is often more intimate than its public chronicles, that Oberstein, eager to complete the coup of his lifetime, came to the law and was safely arrested by Lestrade. In his trunk were found the invaluable Bruce Partington plans, which he had put up for auction in all the naval centres of Europe. Colonel Valentine was imprisoned, and died towards the end of his sentence's second year. As to Holmes, he returned to his monograph upon the polyphonic motets of Lassus, which has since been printed and is said by experts to be the definitive word upon the subject.
The Adventure of the Bruce Partington Plans was adapted by Jeremy Holstein and featured Andrew Harrington as Sherlock Holmes, Chris Chiampa as Dr. Watson, Mike Haddad as Mycroft, Justice Perry as Inspector Lestrade, Catherine Bromberg as Mrs. Hudson and Violet, Will Spreadbury as the Gent and Johnson, and Eric Chung as Valentine. Our stage manager was Meg Wickham, our Foley artist was Joev Dubach, our sound designer was Paul Springer, and the entire production was under the direction of Jeremy Holstein. Next month, the Summer of Mystery concludes with the return of Lady Molly of Scotland Yard in The Fordwich Castle Murder, August 27th and 28th. Don't miss it. Thank you for joining us, and good night.